Okay, welcome to the workshop number 9 about self-esteem. The greatest teacher failure is. You already see Yoda here. And yeah, it's going to be a little Star Wars theme today. Maybe you wonder why Star Wars. We'll get there. We'll get there. I think it should be a little bit clearer. Also, like next week, we'll talk a little bit about this too. And there's some Star Wars memes in the presentation that will just open up a little bit of space for some associations. Let's see if you like this or not. Okay. The question basically, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I started looking into this topic, like last year in the spring, I would say about a year ago, I started looking into self-esteem, and I was like, what is that? And I think maybe some of you have read the essay, and it's kind of like it's actually not that easy to say. I think everyone has an idea about what self-esteem is, but people have very different ideas, and there's all kind of like terms that are close to self-esteem, self-confidence, maybe self-efficacy, self-respect, and what do they mean? And I had a really, really hard time. And if you were to like those two workshops last year, you would have known that it took me a while to actually wrap my head around which definition of self-esteem is actually the most important one for our purposes. And um, it's we'll zoom in on this one. First, just very general, self-esteem is the overall sense of self-worth or personal value. So how much we appreciate ourselves. I think that's already pretty clear, and this is like basically more or less what you guys think this is. Um, this is a quote from a person we'll be working with today. His name is Nathaniel Branden. He's like an American psychologist, and he's like the first person to like really work with the idea of self-esteem. Um, and in his definition, self-esteem fully realized is the experience that we are appropriate to life and to the requirements of life. That means that when we have high self-esteem, that means we can get through life and we are able to live a good and solid life. And in his definition, self-esteem has like a couple of more things to it. One would be self-respect, one would be self-awareness, one would be self-assertiveness, and we'll get there just to like kind of like get a broader sense of what it is and why this is actually important for us. And we're doing like a double approach this week and next week and really try to, and also like on the belonging workshop, we were talking about this. Just, okay, very often when we're bothered by something, when we speak, we have like a drop of self-esteem. Why is that? How does it work? And how can this be prevented? Yeah, we'll get there in a second. So there's a constant feedback loop between our actions in the world and our self-esteem. That's, I think, pretty clear. The better, like the better feedback we get, the higher our self-esteem. The worse the feedback, the lower our self-esteem. And so self-esteem is in a way like a certain like a recording of prior experiences, and the self-esteem then creates a set of implicit expectation about what is possible and appropriate to us. It kind of like tells us where we are in the world, yeah, and where we are in a certain situation. If you are born a prince, you will have a very different self-esteem when you're born, I don't know, like somewhere like in a shitty family. You will have a very different self-esteem. And so like what is appropriate for your life and what do you think what should be for you and what do you deserve? And the problem then is that these expectations tend to generate the actions that turns them into realities. And then the realities confirm and strengthen the original belief. So it's like a feedback loop. And the lower the self-esteem, then there will be like a self-fulfilling yeah, prophecy. So like self-esteem, no matter of high or low, tends to be a generator of self-fulfilling prophecies. The commoner will probably stay a commoner, and the prince will probably, stay a prince or become a king at some point, but they will stay in their realm. And the question is, what can we do to actually change that, to influence that we're not like on this autopilot? And I think for us, you think we're tackling here big questions. I think for most people now, we're like in the language learning context, from like all these definitions and terms, what I believe the most relevant term would be, or this, the theory of like self-esteem as a sociometer. Yeah. I think that is what explains the best a lot of people experiences with self-esteem in the context of language learning. And if you've read the essay, this just a little reminder. So the fundamental concern underlying our desire to be evaluated positively, our desire to be accepted and to belong to groups. Yeah, this is like a really important driving force for human beings. We want to be accepted and belong because it is back in the day, in like in the tribal times, you needed to survive, and that was only possible in a group. Yeah. Self-esteem can therefore be interpreted as a reflection of our assessments of the implications of our behavior for social inclusion and exclusion. That means our self-esteem tells us if we're in on it or if we're being excluded. The self-esteem will tell you that. Yeah. And if everything is fine, you don't have to do anything. If your self-esteem goes down, okay, I have to do something. Yeah, I have to like develop some certain psychic activity. So it is a subjective gauge of the degree to which we perceive our relational value and social acceptance. So when I'm in a situation and I don't feel well, it means I have to do something. Yeah, I want to like either I'm in the wrong situation, so I have to get out of it, or I have to like behave in a certain way. So whenever like self-esteem issues come up, I have to do something. Yeah, it drives me to do something and in a to make me belong. Um, and I think it's important here, there's also in the essay, that we have in psychology, there's something called state self-esteem and trait self-esteem. And state self-esteem, I think, is what is important for us. It is tied to our assessment of inclusion in the immediate situation. Yeah, that means my state is, it's not a trait, it's a state. That means in this very moment, is my feeling of being included in danger or not? And I think, for example, I remember, Tim, when I see your face, I think last week you said, well, I sometimes, when I meet these people at work and their English is terrific and my German is not so good, yeah, and then I speak German and I know that their English is so much more better than my German, that is when you kind of feel your status in this group, like your reputation, is in a certain way endangered. And that means your self-esteem in the situation goes down. Yeah. It's not that we can't really, we, it's, I think it's really funny when people talk about their self-esteem and some, no, everyone says, no, I have high self-esteem. First of all, we all have self-esteem that goes up and down depending on the situation. And second, I really believe that most people don't fully understand the idea of self-esteem. It's really, you can't just decide to have self-esteem, and you do not get high self-esteem by just claiming it. Yeah, it is something that is really, I think it's really deeply rooted to just kind of like drive us in social situations. And the trait self-esteem is then a compilation of our history of experienced inclusion and exclusion. So for example, if you speak German better and better and better, and you have a lot of good interactions, you will believe that you speak German well and that you can have good interactions. Yeah, that would be your trait self-esteem in the context of language learning. Yeah. So in the end, what we need basically is, I think, is we need to raise or like be better able to control the state self-esteem, yeah, to not be stressed. And next week we go into like all the things that we do when our state self-esteem goes down. There's all kinds of ways that our mind kind of like sabotages us. Yeah. Okay. So that is trait self-esteem. So yeah, I think the first thing we need to tackle is the state self-esteem as kind of so we don't feel stressed, we don't feel unwell, that we feel positive in the moment. Um, so we behave in ways that maintain or enhance self-esteem. We're looking for status. We like try to impress people. We tell really good stories. All kinds of stuff we do in order to maintain or enhance self-esteem. That's really important in like the human being to maintain, enhance, or protect self-esteem. Yeah. So we don't really do this because we need self-esteem per se. Yeah, that it's not something that we just want or need. Yeah, we actually do this to decrease the likelihood that we will be ignored, avoided, or rejected. And we all have developed certain ways of like doing this. There's like automated programs that we run that make sure that we don't feel like this. Um, so that means that behaviors that we usually think of as efforts to maintain self-esteem, would be, for example, approval seeking, self-handicapping, shutting up, yeah, all kinds of stuff. They're actually ways of maintaining or improving social acceptance. So whenever we talk about self-esteem, it's actually about feeling accepted in the moment. Um, in this case. Okay. Um, is that, yeah, more or less clear? I'll give you guys just to discuss this a little bit. Yeah, Camille?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence.
Hmm.
Um, I just would like to know what you think about it and if you think that those two are complementary or they are totally different. Because I have the feeling that, for instance, people with high self-esteem but low self-confidence are the worst people on earth.
Um, okay. I think the way what you're just describing is, in my view, not possible. You cannot have low self-esteem and high self-confidence. Um,
Okay.
I would say that self-confidence is the expression of self-esteem. It's the way how it's kind of like self-esteem, what I have on the inside, and the self-confidence is like the outside coin of the self-esteem. And I think what you're referring to is not people with high self-esteem and high self-confidence. I think what you're referring to is people with an inflated sense of self-esteem, yeah, also called narcissism, and high level of self-confidence. Yeah. There's actually, yeah, but yeah, but they don't know that they have a low level of self-esteem. Yeah, they don't feel it. They have it's but yeah, I would say it's tied to each other. Yeah. But the one is what you show and the other is what you have. But there can be a mismatch. I think that can be true. Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing is
Yes.
what you show, the other is what you actually have. Yeah. What is perceived by others. Yeah. Um,
May I ask?
oh, one last thought. I think you can say somebody is self-confident by just see the way they act, but to see, like, to judge their self-esteem, you have to interpret that. Do they have high self-esteem or not? You would have to like be like on an interpretation of their behavior. Okay. Is that answering your question, Camille? Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I have low self-esteem and low self-confidence then?
Possibly.
Okay.
Like low self-esteem. Also, one thing, I think a lot of people are really afraid to kind of like say they have low self-esteem. It's kind of like a stigmatizing like statement about someone. I have low self-esteem. Oh God. Oh no, what a terrible person. I think if somebody says about themselves they have low self-esteem, It just means I get really shaky and I get really insecure in certain social situations. Yeah. I don't believe much that I can't do much. Yeah. I get on a trade level, I don't believe I can do a lot in this world. And on a state level, I get really stressed and insecure with people. That would be, I would say that would be like a low self-esteem. Yeah. And then low self-confidence would be how you behave towards other people. Okay, let's go to the questions. Three questions. Um, so how relevant do you think is sociometer theory to your experience of speaking German? So this whole discussion we had. Um, to what extent have you consciously reflected on self-esteem as a part of your learning process so far? Is this something that you thought about? Is this like, oh, maybe this might be an issue uh, while learning and speaking German? And if you have never thought about this topic, how have you previously explained the discomfort you feel when speaking? When you experience discomfort speaking a foreign language, speaking German, and you never tied this to self-esteem, what did you tie it to? That would be my question. Okay. Then let's wait. Hang on, how does this work? Oop. Okay. Now you should be seeing me. Why are you not seeing me? Oh, here. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'll send in the chat. Where's the chat? Chat. Hang on. Any questions now after the conversation, the discussion? Anyone? No? Okay, then let's go on. A lot of stuff today, so I hope we'll get through it. Let me share my screen again. Hang on. Oop. Is this one? Okay. So we're slowly walking through how we got to where we are, most of us, when we speak today. And I think if we want to trace it to something, we're probably gonna back to school. Let's see if that framing makes sense for you. But let's just go back to like foreign language classes in school, at least how it was for me, my experience in the 1990s in Germany. Language classes are practice environments. For those of you who remember the term we had, like the practice environment means it's not a real communication situation. It's just you just practice. Yeah. And that is what most classes are. And the focus in those practice environments is entirely on correctness. It slowly changes in a lot of schools, but it's not about authentic communication. It's not about identity. It's not about who am I in this language. It is about being correct or not. And so in school, and when we grow up, our status within the group and so our self-esteem, they are tied to speaking correctly for most people, unless you're extremely funny or I don't know, but like most people have status and self-esteem in a language class when you speak correctly. That is also still the case today. If you are the worst student in the class, you will probably not feel great. Yeah. So back in the day, public mistakes frequently resulted in rejection, in like even humiliation. I remember I felt sometimes really shitty in English class and French class when kids were like laughing at you, you made a mistake, the teacher was scolding you. I think we can talk about humiliation in some cases. And so these experiences create a certain fear of losing status among peers or with the teacher. Yeah. And in the essay, I wrote about this that like basically later, the people are afraid of two things: speaking in front of groups in speaking in front of native speakers. And I think the class kind of represents the group, and the teacher then is the stand-in for the native speaker because they always know when something is correct or not. So so when you make those mistakes publicly and like you have, don't have a lot of status in the class, and your mistakes, they reduce your self-esteem, and you kind of like install like a trigger system. When like you are in school, you have to be careful what you say because you might be laughed at. So you have to start controlling yourself. You start to develop maybe some sort of perfectionism. I had this, I don't talk until I was at 100% sure I was correct. So I would like sit there and like prepare one phrase, and then that's all I could say. And after that, I would shut up. And so then basically, and we'll talk about this when we talk about IFS next week, you have certain inner protective parts emerge to prevent this experience, to prevent this rejection, this humiliation, and this social exclusion in the future. And those protective parts, they are things like self-sabotaging, self-censorship. Self-sabotaging, for example, is something like I'm not doing the homework anymore. Yeah. And then I'm getting really bad, or self-censorship, you don't speak, you're getting really vigilant, you make sure that like nobody's laughing, you get the feeling like, oh, everybody's making fun of me when I speak, you overcompensate by, I don't know, just stop speaking, just making jokes in class the whole time. Yeah. Or like overcompensate by like extreme learning, which is also a form of perfectionism, or you create some sort of internal criticism, like a strong inner critic to kind of like keep you on alert and make sure that you don't behave in a stupid way. And I don't know when I remember these first things basically in seventh grade, eighth grade, when I was like 12, 13, that this whole thing started. I don't have any memory of this happening to me before that. I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, this actually starts in middle school, also with adolescence when we become much more self-conscious. But I think this is really, for most people, I would assume, this is how they would tell the story of how they feel the way they feel when they speak today. And the problem with this is we have this developed over 15, 20, 25 years ago, and we kept those protective parts. But the problem is that today they basically maladaptive patterns. They're not really helping us anymore. So because now in adult life and abroad, when we live in Germany, there's different rules. We're not in a practice environment anymore. We are in a communication environment. Yeah. So there's different rules and different incentives. And correctness doesn't really matter that much. What's really important is good communication skills, because if you are able to communicate well and speak well and connect well with people, this is what brings you status and self-esteem. The correctness doesn't really, but we still believe it does. That's why I think you see a lot of people in language classes when they speak chasing correctness, because they think that will make them feel good. But I think most people, or everyone, wants to connect and to belong and create new opportunities, succeed professionally express ourselves and show who we are. I think that is what adults' real goals are. Those are the real goals of children, but they are, back then it just matters about correctness. But now, we want to express ourselves. We want to show who we are, but the limited language skills, they lower self-esteem. Yeah, we just don't feel well, which then creates pressure for psychic activity. It means something happens in our head that we cannot control. There's an automated pattern now, getting turned on. That's what I mean by psychic activity. Something happens. Remember in the essay I said, high self-esteem is the absence of psychic activity. I feel great, everything is going well. Low self-esteem then actually, drives psychic activity, stress. And then these situations resemble our experiences from school, meaning that I have to do something, my self-esteem drops because I'm not speaking correctly. And then this triggers our foreign language protectors, which everyone has different ones, but there's very common ones. We'll look more into this next week, which or we have specifically, but there's all kinds of things. You can develop a stutter, you can say you can just leave. There's all kinds of foreign language protectors. Very common is also switching the language all of a sudden without actually making a they are all triggered. They're not conscious decisions. You're just like, oh, and I switched the language again. Or I just felt really bad and I didn't want to speak anymore. Or I don't know, I got dizzy. All kinds of things that like will kind of your brain uses to basically restore consistency. You're in a state of inconsistency, and then there's all these kinds of things that your body has, your brain has this automated program to kind of reduce the consistency and make you feel better, make the brain feel better. So yeah, that's the maladaptive pattern. And I think all adults, and I think very often the question is, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons a lot of people came to this course is, why do I feel bad when I speak? I don't get it. And I would suggest that is what we just talked about. That is basically the reason why a lot of people feel bad when they speak and they feel they're not up to it. Okay. Last discussion about this. To what degree does this framing resonate with your personal experience of learning and speaking in foreign languages? Is your experience different when speaking German compared to other languages you've learned? That very often I hear this quite a lot, that people say, I don't know, it wasn't like this when I was learning French, but now that I live in Germany, it's like this. And I don't really get it. And three, how would you explain the difference? Yeah, like if it was different with German and other languages, why do you think that is? Okay, that would be the questions. And let me, oh wait, let me, hang on a second. I want to pause. Any comments? I assume there's some stories people can tell. How did this framing resonate with you? Just wondering.
So accurate.
Okay. Everyone who disagrees? Who just like, nah, that's not really my story.
So
Dimitri?
for me, one of the reasons that I didn't want to go to England to go there and study or like work, it was I was feeling this imposter syndrome that hey, I'm here and I'm not speaking proper English, and there are people around me that they will understand directly that I'm not speaking proper English. And I think that I still carry the same behavior here
Yeah.
in that I'm in Germany. Like I want to speak German. I try to speak German from time to time, but always I feel this imposter syndrome that hey, yeah, I'm not speaking so good enough English, German to to communicate.
Yeah, to be a part of this
Yes.
group. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you always feel like an outsider, always feel excluded. Or the fear of just not going out there and trying because I will feel excluded. I will feel like an idiot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really crazy. When I was a kid, I had this very strong I didn't want to speak a foreign language. It took me like 3 months in Australia as like when I was 20 to just get over this. I wouldn't go on a student exchange. I wouldn't want to study abroad. I didn't want to do any of this because I was like, I don't just like Dimitri, as you just said. I just like I didn't want to feel this way. Yeah, that's not me. Yeah. So very unfortunate. And not everyone has this. A lot of people, I think, have this. Some people very strongly, other people not really so much. And I think it really depends what your experience in school is. Yeah, I think. And obviously overall your personality and how you grow up and your overall level of self-esteem. Other comments, other stories, other questions, maybe? If not, we'll go on. Yeah, no problem. We will go on, and we'll start with another. Hang on a second. I will share my screen again. I'm a little overwhelmed with the technology here today, but I'll get there. Hang on, how does this work? Okay. Some Yoda and Luke Skywalker. For those of you who like to combine Star Wars with psychoanalysis, there's actually the story of Luke Skywalker is a terrific story of somebody coming into self-esteem. And I think we'll see at the beginning, he's this kind of like ambitious, hotshot kind of guy. And then he goes on this journey. And I think it's mostly in the second part of the Empire Strikes Back, when they are on the planet on a Dagobah, and he meets Yoda, which is his teacher. We will see next week, like his self. He meets like his higher self, and Yoda is the incarnation of this, the externalization of like an higher being, and he goes on a path towards high self-esteem, and a Jedi is basically a person whose self-esteem is unshakable. Yeah, they know who they are. They always calm. They have power over themselves. They're not in like crazy psychic activity. Yeah, and they don't give in to their feelings and their fears. So the path of the Jedi is the path of high self-esteem in a certain way. And he says, you must unlearn what you have learned. It's one of the many smart Yoda quotes. And yeah, maybe that reflects a little bit what I mean. What you have learned is like those maladaptive patterns in school, and you must unlearn them in a way. I wish it would only take 3 weeks on Dagobah to get rid of them, but we'll see what we can do in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. Okay. So we have a battle plan for tonight. We'll how to take down the Death Star. So the battle plan is the following. We're following here General Nathaniel Branden. The goal is to strengthen self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden, we'll see a photo of him in a little bit. He worked like basically decades of his life on how to strengthen self-esteem, how to make feel people better about themselves, because the self-esteem is the base for the self-confidence, what you do in life, what you do at work, all kinds of things. Step number 1 is deepen self-awareness. Yeah, if you don't have a sense of who you are and what you do, you cannot strengthen self-esteem. So step number 1, deepen self-awareness. Number 2, once you've realized what is going on, it is really, really important to cultivate self-acceptance. Going back to Yoda and Dagobah, basically seeing what is. I remember the scene when Luke Skywalker goes into the cave and he kind of like sees like what is going on in his own head. It's about really accepting what is going on there. So another step towards more self-esteem is really accepting what is going on in my head and really, really accepting it. And not want to say get rid of it. It's just, it's there and has a certain reason. Step number 3, sharpen self-responsibility. Yeah. We'll get into this in a second. What is self-responsibility? What does this mean to be actually say, I'm 100% responsible for what happens to me. I'm 100% responsible for my life and what happens to me in that life. And I only have that one life, so I better make it work. Then number 4, practice self-assertiveness. Yeah. So it's really like impose yourself. That is now what I think we can talk a little bit more about self-confidence. This is like what I do towards others. Yeah, be self-assertive. And number 5, logically, we have to channel our inner Darth Vader. Yeah, and I hope we have time to get to this last point. Yeah, and we get to the dark side of the Force. Because I think there's a lot we can learn from Darth Vader. I think he's a really interesting personality. I have to say, I completely changed my mind after like preparing this workshop about Darth Vader. I think now the man's a hero. Okay, but let's see if you'll get there too if we have the time to do this. Okay, let's start with the open heart surgery. We're not here just to learn about self-esteem. We are here to improve and to strengthen our self-esteem when it comes to learning and speaking German. And ideally, just ideally, if we have a good day, beyond as well, not just learning and speaking German. So what we'll need in the next hour and a half, openness, honesty, and courage. Yeah. Those are not really characteristic of Darth Vader, but we'll see. What we try to overcome is fear, shame, and comparison with others. So we're starting now something. This is called the STEM completion. Sorry. We start an exercise in a second, and it's just I would really recommend. I would like you to, when you start writing down stuff, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Just write down whatever comes to your mind. It's not about comparing yourself. It's not about being ashamed or being afraid of stuff. Just write it down. Just be honest and, courageous if you want. Writing down this stuff, because I really believe that every project of change starts with a truthful assessment of what is. Yeah, you cannot really, if you are in the dark about where you are in the dark about where you can go and where you want to go. So this is the first thing. You want to allow yourself to have a thorough and honest look at yourself without judgment and of fear of getting judged. Yeah. So like a really thorough look at ourselves. Very important. All thoughts and feelings are welcome. Whatever comes to mind, just write it down. It has a place. When it came to your mind, when it came up there, it probably has a reason why it showed up. There is no need of being uncomfortable, shocked, embarrassed, or even disgusted of what comes up. Really important. Yeah, just don't try to get that filter, this critic, get it out. Just ignore it. They all have a function, and to better understand their function will be today's challenge. So that's where we start. I think we've did a little bit of this work already in the last couple of weeks, but maybe just like one more time to just be like, to solidify it. And for that, we'll do something. This is Nathaniel Branden. You see him here. And we'll do it's called a sentence completion, which is something that he worked with over decades. He would do this like every week. You would write stuff down and write stuff down. It's basically a way of rewiring the brain, seeing what is there, changing. It's like an automated writing technique. It's something you could look if you find this interesting. If you think this really works for me, we can talk about this. I think this is a really nice tool. It works like this. It's really easy, actually. You just start with an incomplete sentence that is finished intuitively. Yeah. And you don't do this once, you do this several times. In the formula I give you, there's always 7 things you can write. And ideally, you write as many things as you can until nothing comes anymore. And the idea is the first time you think a little bit more, the second less and less and less, and you think less and less about what you write to get to the bottom of what is going on. So you're bypassing the inner critics and the rational filters in order to reveal hidden thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and behavior patterns. And the first one we start with, and the effect is by completing several stems in a row, we said 7, patterns become visible and insights arise that might not come through direct questioning. The goal is we want to go around bypassing the inner critic and rational filters. And the first exercise, I think it might be talk to them. And then when we do more and more, you will see this is actually a really interesting way of kind of reflecting on certain things in a different way than just talking about it. You get to a deeper level. And what I'll do, We start with a exercise, self-awareness. I give you a couple of minutes again. It starts with the following 4 questions. So we'll take a few moments to check in with ourselves and write down several answers to the following questions. And you can write just one word, you can write half a sentence, you can write a whole sentence, whatever comes to mind, just write several things to these 4 questions here now. Somebody posted something in the chat. Let's see what is. Okay. So Christine, I didn't see the chat. So now, okay. So the 4 questions are, remember, every thought and every feeling is welcome. Okay, important, but I'll get you that in a second. Okay. When I speak German, I sometimes feel. Write down everything that comes to mind. I'll give you the PDF in a second. Question number 2. When I think about speaking German, I feel. 2 different things. Yeah. When I speak German, I sometimes feel. When I think about speaking German, now this is I always feel. When I study German, I sometimes feel. And when I think about studying German, I feel. Those are the 4 questions. And I'll give you a couple minutes in a second. Let me now just stop the recording. Hang on, let me beigeben. Okay. We come to the next Yoda meme. This is not from the original 4 movies. I think this is from the 4th movie then. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. So yeah, I think what he wants to tell us is that we have to do something with all these, with this fear. In the end, we're talking about like it's a fear of being rejected, the fear of being humiliated, and then that fear leads to, in this case, in all kinds of really, really negative consequences, to hate and anger and suffering. Yeah, maybe that resonates with you also a little bit. Let's go to number 2, the self-acceptance. Now we're just practicing a little bit the self-awareness, and now of what we have become aware or what we've always been aware of. Now we see a little bit the self-acceptance. And I mean, we're doing this just so that's clear. I mean, obviously, what we do today and next week is only the beginning of this work. Working on self-esteem is like, it takes a long time, and it's just, I want to show you like a little bit of a path, where to begin, what to do, what kind of tools you could use, how to frame certain things. It is obviously like a much more complicated operation. But I think self-acceptance is a really, really crucial step in this process. And we talked about self-acceptance before. And what is happening now? Oop. Okay. So now we need to understand that all the thoughts and feelings that have come up are neither bad nor good. First, they just show what is there. Yeah. And it's us who judges it, and it's us who judges ourselves. And these parts are in a universe, and they serve or used to serve an important function for us. What we just wrote down, like those, what I call in the essay, the foreign language protectors, the ones that come up when we want to speak German or English or whatever foreign language we're speaking. And we can only act sustainably, that is in a way that is truly self-congruent, if we learn to listen to all the parts and voices within us. And there's some parts that are not very popular, and we want to get rid of them. And we wish they weren't there, but they are there, and we just have to, again, accept it. And we can't just get rid of them. And I mean, I've been saying this the whole workshop, the whole course basically. If you want to go directly to it, it's probably not working. You have to find a way around it. And one of this is accepting, just accepting that it's there, and don't have so much disdain for yourself or disdain for those parts of yourself. Just they are there. That's the way it is. That's the way I am. Because if we ignore, judge, or suppress those parts, they will find other ways to make themselves hurt. Yeah. Resistance, discomfort, and I think very often a lack of motivation. Yeah. A lot of people, I don't know why I'm not more motivated. It's like, I think I have an idea because it's just not really you. The way you go about this is not really you. So every time we have a certain, I don't want to go there, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, it is very often our system telling us on a much more subconscious level that this is not us, that this is not self-congruent, this is not who we are. So those problematic inner voices shouldn't be approached from above, meaning from the ego trying to tell our consciousness what to do. So don't in a condescending way, yeah. Don't try to silence or exile those voices, but instead we should meet them with openness and curiosity, aiming, and now it gets really crazy, aiming to befriend them. Yeah, they need attention and care and not suppression or exclusion. And a lot of people say, "Oh, maybe I'm too hard on myself." I was like, probably not. Maybe, yeah, you are. Yeah, just be quiet. Just be nice to yourself. Be a good friend to yourself. Those parts of you, next we will talk about the exiles, things we've hidden deep down in our soul. They don't need more pressure. They don't need more hate or disdain. They just need more attention, care, and us trying to understand them better, because in the end, it's trying to understand ourselves better and not just think we can just work it. Well, we're great. We can do this. We can push through this. So, of all the judgments we pass in life, none is more important than the judgment we pass on ourselves. By the way, if you're interested in reading this book, the book is called The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. It's quite the philosophical work. It's full of great phrases. I can highly recommend this book. I thought it was really, really entertaining. I read it last year. Gladly pass it on to anyone who's interested. It's a decades-long experience of working about self-esteem, and he's absolutely right. That is the most important judgment we pass in life, is what do I think about myself? Because that really determines so many things in my life, where I will get, what I will achieve, and how others think of me. Let's go to the exercise, self-acceptance. And that's rather easy, as a matter of fact. So we identify on the worksheets the thoughts and feelings that are the most uncomfortable. I'm a big friend of this idea. Always start there where it hurts the most. That is always where you find the biggest resistance, what you find the most embarrassing. That is always where one should start. Always a great start. Yeah. It's the same when you clean the house. The thing you don't want to do, that is where you should start. So share with your partner in the group your thoughts and feelings. These thoughts and feelings, what you wrote down, the ones that you find the most uncomfortable. You start with the thoughts and feelings that are most uncomfortable or embarrassing, and then you explain to your partner why it is absolutely okay to feel this way. Yeah, all these uncomfortable and embarrassing feelings, you explain. You said, listen, I wrote down, when I think about learning German, I think this. Yeah. And now I'm going to explain to you why it is actually totally okay to feel this way. Yeah. You can pick one, you can pick two, you can pick three. Important, explain why it is okay to feel this way and be convincing. Yeah. If you can't convince the other person, there's a good chance you might be able to convince yourself as well. Okay, let me okay, so we come to number 3, self-responsibility. And we start with another Yoda quote. Do or do not, there is no try. Maybe the Star Wars fan remember which scene that is. That is when he tells Luke Skywalker to get out the boat, not the boat, the starship he came with, to lift it out of the water. And he says, do it or don't do it. But he said, I will try. He said, do or don't. There is no try. Okay, let's see what we come to self-responsibility. And this will not be new to you, but I think it's worth to repeat it. Self-responsibility means honestly looking at yourself in the mirror, deciding what you truly want and need, what aligns with your values and with who you are, and then act in accordance with that. That is the definition of self-responsibility. You are responsible for yourself, which is what we know, but very often we kind of forget that in our lives, that we are the only ones who are truly, truly responsible for what is going on in our life. And you're responsible for the level of consciousness that you bring to this process. You are responsible for monitoring your progress and raising your self-esteem. That is your responsibility for yourself. You're responsible for having productive goals and putting in productive effort. That is what is the difference between an adult from a mental child, taking responsibility for your goals, for your progress. And I think this is like a very human, this is like a self-sabotaging behavior. If you only try a little, you are left either with a little disappointment of falling short or with a little comfort that you didn't truly fail because you never truly tried. And I think that is a very human behavior. Yeah, if I just try a little, you know, it's gonna be okay. And if I fail, I can say I have not really tried. And I think that is also, I see this with a lot of students, German learners, who kind of like just try a little bit. You know, they don't go all in, they just try a little bit because, if I fail, because I not really truly tried, and then I can, give everyone. I'm talking about self-responsibility because I think a lot of students always, we're so quick at blaming others, the Germans, the language, my partner, my school teacher. Yeah, everyone is at fault. But in the end, it's just you. You're the only person who can change it. You're the only person who also truly cares about yourself and your progress. Yeah, there's nobody really cares about this. So big swing, big gains when you take full and sole responsibility for your learning process and commit completely. That's when you experience real success, real self-esteem, and ultimately genuine pride. And not this feeling of, yeah, I never tried, so I can't really fail. That is basically the self-responsibility. And I think there's one thing to remember. No one is coming to save you. Yeah. No one is coming to teach you. No one is coming to solve your problems. No one is coming to make your life easier. No one is coming to speak with you just like that. You'll have to learn and speak German all by yourself. You are the only person who's truly, truly responsible for this. And I think we sometimes forget this. We look for excuses, we look for reasons, but it is us, and we're the only person who can really do something about it and really change it. Let's try an exercise of self-responsibility. And you might see this gets a little bit more uncomfortable now, maybe for some people. Again, we'll take a few moments to check in with ourselves. I give you a little bit more than 5 minutes this time. Write down several answers to the following questions. Again, really, really important. Again, every thought and every feeling is welcome and deserves it to be written down. Question number 1. What I'm avoiding by not committing fully to learning German is. Number 2, if I accepted that I alone am responsible for learning German, I would. If I stopped making excuses, I would start too. And number 4, if I treated language learning, German learning, like a priority, I would. And I'll give you those. Okay, so we've just taken some notes, and now we come to the actual discussion. And again, we'll find a partner as before. We explain what we've just, reflected on, what we've written down. We explain what our most interesting and or most surprising insight was from what we just wrote down. Again, maybe what did we find? What is the most, what bothers us, the most embarrassing part? That is again where we'll start. And number three, we conclude. So when you explain this, you conclude by answering the following question with your partner. If any of what I've written is true, it might be helpful if I do. Yeah. So that is the question. You should explain the most interesting or surprising insight and then conclude by answering this question. If any of what I've written is true, it might be helpful if I do this. Let me hang on just yeah. So clear what we'll do? Not too crazy. If any of what I've written is true, it might be helpful if I. In the Nathaniel Branden, in the STEM completion, that is always the last thing you'll do. If you're interested in the STEM completion exercises in the book, the Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, it is explained quite thoroughly how this works. I'll put you in a group, and I see you guys in 5 minutes. From Star Wars, there's this guy on I think it's on the Death Star, on the frigate. There's like, he doesn't believe that Darth Vader can do it, and he says, "I find your lack of faith disturbing." Really funny scene. Um, and it also ties back to, about self-responsibility. It's in the end here, it's about the lack of faith sometimes in ourselves, that we just don't believe we can do this. And yeah, I find that Darth Vader finds your lack of faith disturbing. Let's go on with self-assertiveness. So this is the fourth pillar when Nathaniel Branden speaks about 6 pillars of self-esteem. I'm following him here on the first 4. And the fourth is self-assertiveness. And that means, in the words of Nathaniel Branden, honoring your wants, your needs and values, and seeking appropriate forms of their expression in reality. That means taking action in alignment with your values and beliefs. It means, and I think this is probably, more concrete and more interesting for us, it means living authentically, not just passively reacting to life or pleasing others, just actually, what do I want? What do I need? What is important? And how do I get it? What do I have to do? Who do I have to convince? Who do I have to choke in order to get it? Yeah, that is self-assertiveness. And I think very often as foreigners, when we live abroad, we have this idea that somehow we are lesser people. Yeah. And I remember this is like when I was living in France. I'm not really French. I really can't do this. Tim was talking about this early on. If you are maybe a person of color living in Germany, you might have this even stronger. Yeah. Like you sometimes just don't speak as if your goal is not to be heard. Like you sometimes this feeling of like, I'm a lesser person than other people here. Some voice is telling you that, and it's not true, but somehow it keeps coming up. And you are here, like we are people, and it doesn't matter if we live abroad or at home, and we are always the same person. We should have the same self-esteem, we have the same value, and we have the right to be here. You have the right to be here in Germany, you have the right to be in Berlin, you have the right to be on this planet, and therefore you have the right to speak up, and that people listen, and that they listen in a way that you want. You are entitled to this as a human being. And I think sometimes you forget that when we speak, others listen, it's our turn. And it doesn't matter how tall we are, if we're a woman or a man, if we are, I don't know, gay or not. It doesn't matter if we are brown or black. It does not matter. We are all humans and we have the right to speak up and to be heard. And never forget that, because every time you back down, the empire claims a victory. Yeah. And every time you resist, you build respect, self-respect, and self-confidence. Yeah, it is. And it's not about like forcing yourself to do something. It is just about like reminding yourself that you have a right to make mistakes. You have a right to speak. You have a right to like take your time when you speak. Yeah. And every time there's a little victory, yeah, the resistance will win a little bit. And every time you don't speak up, and every time you do give in, and you do decide that worthless, then the empire claims a victory. That is self-assertiveness. And in this sense, we will do a very quick exercise, just a couple of minutes. And I just want you to like go back in time, um, and think of a situation where you were speaking, most speaking, but also learning German, and someone did something that went against your needs or wants. Somebody crossed the boundary, somebody did something that you didn't like, and you did not speak up. You did not assert yourself. You just gave in. You let the empire win. Um, Describe the situation to a partner. Explain how the situation made you feel. Maybe just pick one. And explain what held you back. And why did you not assert yourself? Yeah. Why did you let the empire win? Yeah. And I hope you understand a little bit why the Star Wars theme is coming back here. It is every day we decide if we fight or if we let the empire win. And this is in a lot of moments every day we decide this for ourselves. If we let the others win or if we resist the situation and ourselves. Okay, this is the exercise. Let you a couple of minutes discuss this. And then we'll have 2 slides more we'll get through today. I'm very happy. We'll get there. Okay, so take your time, couple of minutes. Think of a time that someone went against your needs or wants and you did not speak up. Okay, let me up. Okay, wait, let me stop. Up. Okay. And am I sharing my screen? No. No. Okay. So last slide for today. Channel your inner Vader. Yeah. And it's about lessons from the incarnation of the Dark Triad. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Dark Triad. It has some infamy as a really bad combination of 3 terrible psychological aspects of a human being. If you've never heard this term, the Dark Triad, please look it up. It's the kind of person you do not want to date. Also, it's the kind of person you don't want her to be your grandmother. I believe my grandmother was actually a dark triad personality. She died 2 years ago, and she left the family in ruins. Yeah, she did the worst testament, the worst last will we can possibly imagine. Yeah, even from the grave, she was taking revenge. So yeah, let's have a look. That's not what we want. Sorry for the little personal story. Um, so lessons from the Darth Vader. How can we channel our inner Vader? Yeah. Number 1, be more narcissistic. As a German learner, I don't mean in life. I don't mean in dating with your friends, not with your family. As a German learner, be more narcissistic. What does that mean? 1, see yourself always as the good guy. When you are in a situation, don't think that you are the person making a mistake. the other person is making a mistake. Yeah, the other person is not listening correctly. We always believe as language learners we are the problem. We are not. We are the good guy, even though we are dark. Number two, feel better about yourself by thinking badly of others. Yeah? The person who corrects you, he's not right. That guy's an asshole. Yeah? The person who speaks too quick, another asshole. Yeah? So there's a lot of people who are just terrible. We are the good guy, and I feel better about myself by thinking badly of others. Number three, don't follow other people's rules. Make your own. Yeah? Fuck them. I decide how I speak. And rules here, I mean also grammar rules. Who cares? I make up my own rules. Yeah? I can do whatever I want because I'm fucking Darth Vader. Number four, show up and choke others. It's always your turn to speak. Yeah? That is also, I think, a good rule to go about life. Now it's my turn. And I think very often we believe because we're foreigners, it's not our turn to talk. It is our turn to talk, and we choke you if you don't let me talk. So be more narcissistic. Number two, be more Machiavellian. Yeah, that's the second characteristic of the dark triad. Yeah, set and pursue your goals and use other people for them. Yeah, use people to get to your goals. You want to practice more? Go on a date with a German idiot who wants to practice with you. Yeah, whatever it takes. Use people. Yeah, think how would Darth Vader learn German? That's what he would do. Yeah, and number two, set and defend your boundaries. Don't take any crap. Yeah, stand up for yourself. Don't let the if you can't let the empire let you become the empire. And number three, yes, be more psychopathic. Yeah. Um, and so don't get fazed by what other people think about you. Yeah. Don't worry about other people. Take risk because who the fuck cares? Yeah. That's like a real psychopath. Yeah. You don't have any empathy either for others nor for yourself. Yeah. Who the fuck cares? Just do it. And don't be afraid of conflict and discussion. Embrace it. It is a chance to show off your strength. Yeah. Don't be afraid of asking, could you please repeat this? Could you please repeat this again? Could you please the fuck speak slower? Yeah. Because I'm not getting it. Yeah. So this is channeling your innovator. And I created a little meme for you to put it in one picture how you should go about doing this. It looks like this. Yeah. So you go out there and you choke the Germans and your inner critics. Yeah, because you are a really powerful person and you can stand up for yourself and protect yourself and be self-responsible and be self-assertive. As you might understand clearly, hang on, let me stop this here. No, where's the video? Wait a second, I'm having some issues here. Here we go. Now, okay. I'm only half joking. I hope you understand that. I'm only half joking with this. Be tougher. And I have a little PDF as a homework. It's some questions, about like being more assertive. You can write this down a little bit. It's questions. The questions entail, if I channeled my innovator, I would more often, or I have the right to live in Germany because, or when I speak German, I have the right to be treated with kindness. And yeah, that's another question. And I'll let you answer those questions as homework. And yeah, I think that was our class for today. I hope the Vader innovator, it's inspires you a little bit. Not only made you laugh. I'm only half serious about this because I think most people who are struggling with these questions, I think they could, use a little bit of Darth Vader's "I don't give a shit" attitude to just go through there and, power through. We will if you want to read about this, I highly recommend the book, The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, at least the first half of it. If you want it, just let me know. I'll send it to you. Just write me a short email. Let me know, hey, I want to have the book. I'll send it to you. Yep. Oh, you have it. Sydney has the book. Hey, okay. Okay. Oh, that's why you wrote it's such a good book. It's a really inspiring read, right?
Yeah, it's great. I highly recommend.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And next week we will be tackling this whole issue with like the inner critics and the stuff from a very different angle. No movie references next week. No memes, but we'll be tackling this from a internal family systems way, which is sorry, Christine, yeah, which is it's a very different way of going about this, but it has the same goal. It's kind of like, having a better relationship with your inner critics, feeling better about yourself when you speak. It is a process. There is no one way of doing this, and that's why I offer different ways of doing this. Check out the exercise with the innovator. If you have not read the essay, you can read the essay till next week. I'll put it again in the email on Friday. And then I hope that you'll find next week also valuable and interesting. And unfortunately, we didn't have the time to share a little bit of stories in the end because I was a little pressed with the time. I hope you enjoyed the session today. I really like this workshop. I'm loving preparing this workshop. I think it's so much fun. I hope that showed a little bit, and I hope you got something out of it and got a little inspiration and I hope you have grown by like 1 or 2 centimeters today. That would be nice. Yeah. It's always nicer to joke people from above than from below. So keep growing, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Yeah. Take it easy. Have a good week. Enjoy the spring. I heard it's finally here. And yes, Camille, may the force be with you. Yeah. Take care. See you all next week. Bye.
Thank you. See you.
Bye. Thank